After World War One, the Ottoman Empire was partitioned by the Western powers. Um, now, there are several explanations as to how the Turkish censorship came about, but the one that I'm going to use as an explanation comes from a scholar named Taner Aksam. Now, the Turks wanted to restore their sense of nationalism and pride in their heritage after the Ottoman Empire is partitioned, and there was a need to forget the atrocities in order to keep their pride as Turks. Now, see, of course, you have to understand that the Ottomans have been losing wars for 100 years, and they are suffering a lot of humiliation, and they just took out all of their anger on the Armenians, and now their country is pretty much completely collapsed. There was an extreme need to feel proud about themselves one more time. So Mustafa Kemal came along and said, Turkey for the Turks. We are proud. We descend from a very powerful race of um, Ottomans, barbarians. We're powerful. We are strong. No one should mess with us. And this is how the pride of the Turks was restored. And so the new Republic of Turkey was founded. Now, what this really meant was that the Armenian Genocide was pretty much completely erased from the Turkish memory. Now, also, as a result of this wanting to rewrite history and pretty much, so that way we can feel proud about ourselves and we can actually start anew, Turkey for the Turks. They had to rewrite history, and there are three ways that the Turks rewrote and are rewriting history right now. One, the Turks killed the Armenians, but it was without systemic intent. So they admit that the Turks killed a lot of Armenians, but it was random and it wasn't with intention. You have to look at the UN's definition for genocide in order to do that. So they admit the evidence is right, but there was no intent. So that was the first one. The second one is it never happened. We have a book here, History of the Ottoman Empire and Modern Turkey by Shaw and Shaw, and these people deny that the genocide ever happened, period, and they go over the entire section of World War I in like a matter of pages, and they say that the Armenians were moved to Syria, and they use words like, ungrateful brutes, and use very pompous words. I don't feel like I'm reading a scholarly work. I feel like I'm reading a novel, but that's them. Shaw and Shaw say that it never happened. The Armenians were just taken to Syria and then they were brought back. Simple as that. And then the third one, now becoming probably the most prevalent, is that the Armenians massacred the Turks. It was completely the other way around. Now, you have to see here that these people, when you actually read their scholarly works, you'll notice a big difference between these people and the people who actually do scholarly work, who actually go in and look at the evidence and draw conclusions. You'll notice that these people who deny the genocide use very, very little evidence to support it, very few primary sources, and they use very derogatory terms and whatnot. It's very unscholarly, and their only way of writing books is basically to attack other works that say that the genocide actually happened. It's very strange. These people are basically saying that this whole Armenian genocide is basically a conspiracy made up by Armenians, and they're just trying to get all this stuff. They're trying to make us apologize, etc., etc. And you can tell that these people are just not in touch with the reality. They just want to get away from this dark page in history as much as possible, and they will do anything in any way to do it. They attack a lot of scholars. They put a lot of pressure on them. They go above people's heads. They do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of books that have been written about these things, that these Turkish scholars have done. Now, it should be noted here that 41 countries acknowledged the Armenian Genocide, including in 2007 the USA, my country. Now, and there have been numerous testimonies from foreign ambassadors, such as the ones in Constantinople who watched the Hunchakist massacre. We have Armenian eyewitness testimonies, Turkish soldiers' testimonies, and even Turkish ministers such as Talat Bey. They are all saying that they were intending to kill the Armenians. So you can say, oh, the foreign ambassadors, they were influenced by Armenian propaganda. And Armenians, oh, they're all working together to try and get the Turks to look bad. And then the Turkish soldiers, oh, that's not true, that was forged or something. They'll make up anything. And the Turkish minister, oh, he was meaning something completely different than what he meant to say. And what about all those pictures taken by that German soldier? All the pictures that I showed you in this slideshow were taken by him. What about that? Oh, that's just some propaganda. Or others will say, oh, those were Turks. Those weren't Armenians. Yeah, right. We also have telegrams, memorandums, all this stuff from Turks and all over the place, all indicating Turkey as the perpetrator. Now, it should also be noted that historians have actually been trying to get at the primary evidence that was very well taken care of by the Ottomans during this time period, but the Ottomans aren't allowing anybody to look at those pieces of work for obvious reasons. They don't want to be implicated at all. Now, whatever, that is a big deal. You should be aware of all that stuff. Now, the legacy of censorship. This deep-rooted animosity persists to this day. It persists from World War I and just before World War I. The Armenians go from being the loyal nation and being so nice and wonderful to being absolutely hated. It is extremely taboo to even speak about the Armenian Genocide, let alone write about it. I made a video called Article 301 of the Turkish Penal Code, and in it, that is the one that says you are not allowed to insult Turkishness. And this is the article in the Penal Code that has been used against people who write about the denial of the Armenian Genocide and write about the Armenian Genocide in Turkey, and they get imprisoned for it. We also have this man, Hrant Dink. Hrant Dink was the editor-in-chief of a bilingual newspaper named Agos. He spoke out against the denial of the Armenian Genocide, and he was prosecuted 3 times under Article 301 of the Turkish Penal Code, and each time he was released, he continued to write, all 3 times. This guy was an international hero, you could say. He was doing something very, very brave. He was very well respected. But Hrant Dink was murdered by this young man on January the 17th, 2007. His name was Ogun Samast. The Turkish media portrayed him as a hero. He was portrayed standing in front of cameras with holding a Turkish flag, and there were 2 police officers standing next to him, smiling and having a grand old time. It was kind of a token arrest. Hundreds of thousands attended Dink's funeral and afterwards proceeded to demonstrate against Turkey.